Tread carefully. Tread carefully.
This must be what they were gathering. Wait, isn't this... It's still in pretty good shape. It looks like it was just left here. Like someone abandoned it while they were in a hurry. They couldn't have gone far. Let's keep searching. Rompopolo! It looks pretty angry.
It's definitely not happy we're here.
What's good, everyone? It's your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself, and ladies and gents, we're back again with Monster Hunter Wilds fighting Rompopolo this time. Now, Rompopolo has a lot of things about him, so let's actually talk about it as quick as we can without getting too weird about it. So, first and foremost, he is a brute wyvern, and unlike basically every other brute wyvern, he does use his head to do all the damage. He actually uses his tail, which is a bit of a trend I'm seeing between him and Spicy Chicken Sandwich, which I've mentioned thousands of times already, but unlike what I always say to use his fire weapon to fight this monster, he's actually weak to water. So if you actually did decide to make the Uthdana weapon of your choice, you can bring that in here, which I did, to fight this young man right here. Now, he has a lot of things going for him, so let's talk about it. So he has the ability to inject the ground around you and him with, I want to say it's his poison gas. The bulbous look of his body is just air sacs, and I'm guessing all his poison is inside the air sac that he actually used to inject the ground with like a mixture of some sort that causes the explosions. I don't know the whole chemistry behind it. I really like to. I truly would like to, because it's actually a super cool design. But he injects the ground underneath you, causes explosions, and depending on how he injects the ground will depend on the explosions that will actually erupt. Now, when you fight him, you're in the oil silt basin thing or whatever, and what the game was trying to tell you to do is spark fire to the little like plumes that are scattered around the area. I do it like once or twice, but you can do this in a multitude of ways. If you have a gun lance, shoot a shell at it, it'll like have a huge eruption. If you pick up like torch pods, you can do it and do the same thing. But for the most part, it's kind of a mechanic that a lot of people won't really mess with, but it's something I want to note. Now, back to him injecting the ground and whatnot. He has the means to inject the ground in two ways. One, he'll just do a quick little injection. It'll make a couple of tiny explosions. And two, he'll sit on his tail. I'm guessing by throwing his weight on the tail, he forces much more of that mixture to go into the ground, causing a larger range of explosions. Now, because he is a monster who has these sacs on his body, and if you do enough damage to him, the sacs will deflate. Naturally, he'll bring the sacs themselves back up again to their full, potential. But if you deflate these sacs across his body, his tail, his actual body, and his head, the way in which you use the certain attacks will be negated a bit. So if I remember correctly, because I'm testing of course, if you deflate his head, he can't do poison. If you deflate his tail, he can't sit on his tail to do that one attack that has a huge damage explosive radius. Not sure what happens if you deflate his body, but I imagine it's roughly the same thing. He probably can't do certain attacks, something like that. So just doing damage to the body will make it deflate, but you can't pop it entirely. It'll just come back eventually. So for the most part, that's everything I want to cover about his particular mechanics. It's a lot actually, and I'm looking at it. We talked for the majority of the fight, but I still want to mention a couple of smaller things, like the way he actually attacks with his front hands. His front hands, they're like little needles. Depending on whether he's enraged or not, he'll stab you with one or two, or slam both down at the same time, doing a little bit extra damage. It's not super crazy, so if you could totally block or just, avoid altogether. But his real thing is explosive syringe poking into the groundy thingy. So just watch for that. He is pretty neat. I do like the monster. I like how they try to go with a different way to have him attack you and whatnot. I think it's really sick they decide to do something like this for a monster. So I gotta give Capcom points for this. However, thus far he's probably on the bottom of all the other new monsters that came into the game, mostly because I just don't like him as much as the others. Not to say I don't like him, but someone has to be at the bottom of the list, you know what I mean? I don't think there's anything wrong with them. But with that said, let's take a look at his gear, because unfortunately we have to talk about it. Okay, so let's say that the Rompopolo armor, the design is insane. It is so cool. Look at this thing. It's so sick. I mean, the Plague Doctor look is just beyond dope. I thought the Great Gyros armor was really cool for Plague Doctor. It is. Don't get me wrong, Great Gyros armor is really sick, but this is just so dope. I mean, it's like Plague Doctor evolution. It's so freaking cool. Now, outside of the aesthetic, its armor set, the skills and everything, not that great. However, wide range 5 is insane. So for those who don't know, wide range allows you to take, let's say you want to take a potion. If you take that potion, all your friends around you feel the effect of that potion. To a degree. Let's take a looky-loo. Now for wide range 5, it goes all the way down to where if you take that potion, your friends feel that exact same potion. Because before, it used to be you take a potion, they get 33% of the potion, and then it increases the radius in which you can actually do this up to 66% until you get to level 5. Level 5, they get the full benefits of whatever you take, be it potions, cool drinks, hot drinks, might pills, armor skin, all that stuff. They feel all that just as much as you feel all that, and the radius in which they can feel it is a much wider radius. Usually people tend to do it in mid-quest, beginning of the quest, right when you fight the monster, and it kind of helps out anyway. It's like everything's a life powder, so it's really cool. Great skill. Other than that, poison resistance, which you'd imagine for a monster who actually has poison. Granted, it's only 2 points of poison. Hello? It doesn't prevent it at all. That's kind of weird. And then of course this group skill is hunter-gatherer, where you can gather materials without getting knocked back and whatnot. Other than that, its weapons, they do give poison. He has poison weapons, as you'd imagine they would, and they're okay. They're okay. They have pretty decent attacks. The poison is pretty good. It's not the only poison weapon in the game, but for poison weapons for now, it's probably the best you're gonna get. It's not bad. It's just that paralysis is better than poison. But hey, at least you have a poison weapon, and they look pretty cool too, thematically, of course. But with that said, that's all it really has. Not a whole lot to say about the Rompopolo stuff. It's just pretty cool looking. So to recap, Rompopolo is a brute wyvern whose main claim to fame is to use the syringe-like needle at the end of his tail to inject the ground underneath you with a gas mixture that's in his body, that's in the bulbous sacs or all around him, that it make the ground explode. He also has the means to eject poison from his mouth, but realistically he doesn't do it as often as other monsters who use poison. Many other poison monsters tend to just throw that stuff absolutely everywhere, but him, he does it a bit more sparingly, mostly because I'm thinking he's using that same gas to blow up everything else around him. Now, it's actually weird that he himself doesn't have explosive weapons. Maybe he does, and I might have been missing something, but I feel like he's a monster who will probably benefit from having the dual typing, where you have one element and one element or whatever, and then another element or whatever. So think Kezu, who used to have both paralysis and thunder weapons. Popolopolo should have poison and explosive, or poison and blast, or something like that. That's just, this is all off cuff. That whole little tangent was off cuff. It just hit me all of a sudden. Nevertheless, Rompopolo, watch out for the way he actually injects the ground. He injects it in a multitude of ways. One way is where he'll do a quick injection. It'll do a small explosion, nothing real big to really worry about. The second way is when he sits on his tail as he injects the ground. That does a much larger explosion. Think of, if you've played the previous Monster Hunter games, Brachytos, where he'll put his horn into the ground and kind of leave it in there for a little bit, causing like a wider range of explosions underneath him. It's similar to that. Now, outside of these things, he isn't a true real threat realistically. He doesn't have a lot of attacks that do anything else. Tail whips, him, poking you with his hands, things like that. Nothing too major. And outside of a few times where you might get hit with the poison, the explosive damage is really all he has. And his gear, as cool as it may look, isn't actually that great unless you like to be the support hunter. That wide range 5 at this low is insane, truly ridiculous if you ask me. So if you like to help out your friends, kind of be the medic or the healer if you will, this is going to be your set. Outside of the aesthetics, the weapons, they're actually pretty decent. They're decent enough poison weapons for the time being. They're the only ones you have access to. I recommend getting some, because poison is a pretty nice thing to actually have, but it doesn't work as well as something like paralysis does, because Lollabarina, its weapons are actually really good, comparatively so, because the monster not moving at all and then you forcing a lot of damage on them works a little bit better than the monster taking slow ticks of damage over a set of period of time. Usually in an instance where this would be better is if there was more poison, like instead of 150 or whatever, it was like 300, then it'd be worth it. But other than that, I think it's pretty okay. But with that being said, everyone, it's been your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and let me know what you think of Rompopolo, because I really think it's pretty okay. But with that said, I will see you all in the next one, and may the desired sense of forever be in your favor.